Life gives us moments when we have the opportunity to make a choice. And what we choose has the potential to change our lives forever. Join us now for another inspired episode of The Breakthrough. And now, please welcome the creator and host of the show, Jessica Dugas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Breakthrough Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I am super excited that you're here with us for another episode today. I have a guest that is so awesome. And when I first saw him on Facebook through another friend of ours of the show, Calvin Witcher, I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to totally connect on so many things. And I said, we need to have you on the show. But at the time, I didn't have any openings. And I thought, what am I going to do? And then it just so happened that something happened with the schedule and I had an entire episode. And so you're not even going to just hear from me in the beginning of today because my guest is amazing. And why not do an entire show of so much goodness, and I know you guys are going to get a lot out of it. So the person that I have on today is not a life coach. He's not a mindset coach, a spiritual guide, a business coach, a therapist. He's none of those things. And I feel very much like he is very similar to me in that we're multi-passionate, we're multi-talented with a lot of different things. And he's weird, which not only makes for a great person to hang out with, it's going to make for a great show. So make sure you hang out. Please welcome to the show my special guest today, Dan Mendilow. Dan, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Jessica. What a beautiful introduction. I'm so excited to do this. I've been looking forward to playing with you for a couple of weeks now, and this is just so awesome.
I always say that it's like this waiting and those of you that have watched the show every week this season, I'm so sorry that I repeat myself every 5 minutes, but I feel like that's where we have these conversations and then it's like this waiting period of, when are you going to be on the show? When's it going to happen? When are we going to get to do this? And so I'm really glad that that this mishap happened so that we have the opportunity to do this, right?
Absolutely. And what a great way to start the week.
Yes.
This is great.
Well, I want to start out today. One of the things that I love to ask the guests that come on this show is what's bringing you joy in your life right now?
That's a big question. And it's a big question because I guess we'll go through my story in a little bit, but what you'll see there is, how do I do this without going into any of it yet? I don't want to tease out the story. No spoiler alerts here. I divorced myself from my own emotions when I was very, very young. Really only feeling negative emotions for most of my life. I was suicidally depressed from the moment that I was born all the way up until 31 years old. And I didn't know what positive emotions felt like. And that may sound weird to other people, but I just couldn't hold on to them. I could mimic them and I could have moments of laughter. And when I got really messed up, really drunk, I could feel what I thought might be positive emotions. And that's why I did everything under the sun as much as I could. Now, through my healing, I've started experiencing, again, I don't know how much, and there's still a lot more for me to feel. It's not like, one and done kind of thing, but I'm beginning to feel real positive emotions by myself without anything, without substances, without any of that. So what is bringing me joy today is actually feeling joy at all.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful process. And it's amazing what brings me real joy these days. I'm surprised by it. Cause it's being colorblind and suddenly noticing colors everywhere and looking at things like, oh my God, I had no idea that's what that actually looked like.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea this thing, this small little stupid thing gives me so much joy. I'm weeping. And so that whole surprise discovery thing is bringing me a lot of joy.
I love that. I love that because it's kind of, A few weeks ago, I talked about joy in awakening on my Project Joy podcast, and it's really interesting because it's one of those things where anybody that you know that has talked about this process of awakening has been like, listen, I was basically curled up in the corner with a blanket sweating, you know. It was like this whole thing of trying to get to this next, whatever the next part is in their life, okay, on their journey. And so it's hard in that moment to find the joy in going through that, right? It's not until on reflection we're like, oh, I needed that. Do you find that some of the joy that you're experiencing now is on that reflection of the things that you've gone through?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, even just last week, I seem to be attracting trauma,
Mm,
bringing it up, digging it up, and having these moments of freak out and breakdown that have brought me to literally wishing for death recently, not trying to kill myself. That happened before, but that's also part of it.
right.
And, wondering, feeling lied, betrayed to, like this. I feel like the more spiritual you are, the more you encounter these moments of feeling left out and suddenly having the universe turn its back on you.
Mm,
And these moments are excruciating, and they're not, even when I know what's going on, it's like a little bit of me, hangs on that the mentor, the teacher kind of knows, but like 98% of me is losing my mind.
mm. Because
uh
we're human.
yeah,
Who would, I mean, hello. It's so
yeah,
funny how many times to me you hear about, oh, we're spiritual beings and we're not. Yes, but we're also chose this life for a reason.
yeah,
We're supposed to have human things go and human emotions and experiences and all of that. And so, like, yeah, I think there's always, especially those of us that are coaches or teachers or healers or whatever, there's always that little part that's like, now listen, you know better than that.
but it sucks because it's like your life doesn't. It's like what I tell my clients: no one gives a shit about what you know.
Yeah,
Sweetheart, nobody cares. And
that's cute.
you don't even care what you know. You don't, because if you obeyed all the things that you knew, your life would be dramatically different,
Yes.
right? But how many times do we know, I know this is bad for me? We all drink alcohol, right? Most of us drink alcohol. I know it's purely poison. I know that. And the people who would say, no, there's a benefit for drinking red wine, how dare you? You think a little bit of resveratrol in your wine is actually doing you any favors? Eat a
Mm,
handful of red grapes.
yeah.
So, no, there's no reason to drink alcohol based on what you know. But we
Right.
do it. Why? Because it feels good. And that's the thing that runs our lives, is how we feel, not what we know. And so in these moments of panic, it does not matter what you know.
Right.
But on the other side of it, I've always experienced that when I do come out of terror, usually I have to get there. I guess I'm still very stubborn. And so it's like life will come and like, hey, learn this. I'm like, nah, learn this.
I'm all
And,
right.
let go of this. No, I like this thing.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna kick you down an open elevator shaft, and then, but when I climb back up and I realize it and I can see the view and I can understand and really feel the reason, not just know the reason that I went through that. Yes, it does bring me a lot of joy.
Mm. I love that. I love it. Well, I definitely want to be able to get into some more of your story in a little bit, but I want to talk before we go to break about, in your introduction that I gave you today and on your bio, you list all of these things that you're not. And I know when we had our initial conversation too, and you and were talking about what we do, it's so easy to be like, well, I'm not this, I'm not this, and I don't particularly care for the word coach. I call myself a mentor because it makes other people comfortable that I have a title. I don't really, I feel like I'm Jessica and I can help you, and period, end of story. Like, and that's always, and I know that you're very similar to where it's like I do these great things and I can help you, but like, let's talk about this idea that, do you think we need a title in order to fulfill ourselves, or is it just for other people?
I think that I think that titles are a product or the relics of an old world mentality, what I call like the 1950s mentality,
Yeah.
right? And it is very much a 1950s thing. Um, of like, well, this is how you do, this is what work looks like. Work needs to suck. That's why we call it work. How many
Right.
people have heard that, right? And you have to have a business card, and the business card needs to look this way, and you need to have this kind of life. And it's a very much a product of a rigid world, born in rigid times, right? Because in that world, uh, flexibility sometimes might have been seen as weakness, and it was a much harder world to live in, right? When we look at people who lived through World War I and World War II, life was very different. And at that point, we did not have the luxury of enjoying our work. You needed to eat.
Yeah. Right.
We didn't have, people needed to know what you did, and people had to break through the madness outside of each other. And that's why we had these hardcore sales, ABC, always be closing, because if you didn't, you might starve.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was a reality for many people.
Right.
But we don't live in that world anymore. And even though right now you may look outside your window and see that, like, hey, life is very hard, you know what? It's not as hard as it was. This is still an era of prosperity and joy and freedom and abundance. And so the rules are different now. And so we need to be different now. And I think that titles may be stepping stones, just to help you kind of like realize where you are at some points, just like knowing you're in first grade. You're a first grader. That's a title.
Yeah.
That kind of lets you know where you are, right? And that's okay. I'm not going to say it's awful to call yourself a first grader. If that's what you are, it's fine.
Right.
But at a certain point, the training wheels need to come off. And in order to expand yourself, we must break free of the things that would minimize us. Because even I used to call myself a coach and went through different titles and everything, and they helped for a time.
Right.
And now I have a different one I'm trying on, right? But no, I'm not a coach. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a mentor. All these things have very specific meanings. But not only that, there's also a connotation and denotation to every single word, what the definition is when you look it up versus what someone else will interpret it to mean when you say it. And it's just like when I live with my girlfriend, I will never introduce her as this is my girlfriend, ever. Never have, never will. It used to bother her. And when she asked me why I just introduced her as Jess, I told her, look, you are so much more than my girlfriend. Being my girlfriend is one of the most tiny little details in your life. My girlfriend, how dare I minimize you like that? I want them to get to know you for all of the beauty that you are, that attracted me in to make me want to be your boyfriend.
Right.
And so the same sort of thing, like when people say I'm a business coach, they usually have to follow it up, because they'll say, like, I'm a business coach who does this and this and this and that, because even the business coach, what does that really mean? I may think it's different than what you think it means. And so when we do that to ourselves, it's doing ourselves a great injustice, I think. And that's why I usually say, this is what I do. But what I do changes depending on who I'm speaking with, because I want to speak into their listening and say something that applies to them. And if I see that there is no way for us to bridge that gap, then who cares what I'm called, right? If they're not going to understand what I'm trying to say or who I am, then what is a title other than more confusion? But if they do understand who I am and what I do, then a title won't be enough. So what's the point?
Right. Well, I mean, going back to the girlfriend thing, I mean, Jess just stands on its own. I mean, just Jessica is it can stand by itself. We don't need any other introduction.
This is my Jess.
Well, you guys, we're not even into the show yet, and this has been a whole word. It's been a whole word. We're gonna be back in just a minute with more with Dan. So hang in there. We'll be back in just a second. Hey, Jessica Dugas here, creator, producer, and host of The Breakthrough Show. We have big goals here at the show in the desire to change the world one Breakthrough Show episode at a time. And honestly, we couldn't do it without you. We want to take this moment to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters for helping us to not only expand the show, but spread its message far and wide. If you're not a supporter yet, we would love to have you. You can choose any tier with tons of benefits at patreon.com/The Breakthrough Show. We can't wait to have you part of our Breakthrough Show family. And now back to the show. Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. You're here with me, Jessica Dugas, your host, and my friend Dan. Welcome back, Dan. So we got off to quite the start on the show today, and I wanted to backtrack, push the rewind button for those of you 90s kids with the cassette tapes. You push rewind. So we're gonna go back, because I want to hear about some of the things that make you you, and some of the breakthrough moments that you have had in your life. Now, I know you mentioned in the start of the show that you felt like things were, I'm going to use air quotes here for those of you on podcast, things were off with you from the beginning. Like you felt like you couldn't experience certain emotions, and that you've gone through a lot in your life to get where you are today. I want to start by asking, what do you think it is that do you feel like, looking back, when you came into this world, like that there's a reason that things have gone the way that they've gone with you, like that the reason that things haven't been easy, or a reason that you felt the way you felt? Do you think that it just the way it happened, or is there a grand reason for all of this?
I think a little bit of both.
Mm.
I'm not, I can't remember the word is, someone who believes in like a strict, rigid fate.
Mm.
However, I do believe that I chose, and I believe that I chose something insanely difficult. And I do believe in the readings that healers have been telling me all my life, including the Mayan astrology, which is, in my experience so far, been beautifully accurate in many ways. Which is, this life is the life where I burn off a lot of karmas,
Mm.
and that I have been, and with past life regressions, if you believe in that sort of thing, visited many past lives in which I was a healer and a shaman and a medicine man, and I was murdered, burned at the stake, and in other ways tortured for the healing work that I've done. It's one of the reasons why now I have an energetic allergy to strong Christian symbols, and always have. Like walking through a museum with my brother one day, big room in it, and suddenly feeling very hot, like I was about to pass out and losing my consciousness and literally closing in, trying to rush through that room. And when I was out of it and could catch my breath, I turned around, and it was very intense Christian art. This life is meant to be difficult. I have a lot to do here. I have a lot to make good on. And in order to be this sort of healer that I'm meant to be, it's important for me to overcome these things. These things are placed in my path so that I can rise above and have this almost as my lifetime to make all those other ones worth it.
Now, I have two things that I want to ask about this. So the first part is that, and I know that I have been in this place before, which is why I ask it, is there are many people who will say, listen, I have had a shitty life. There is no way that I would have chosen this. No way that I would have chosen this for myself. Is that something that you've ever thought at one point, to where, of course, I would have never picked this for my life?
Of course, because why would we choose? I mean, look at all the things that I've had to deal with. Why would I choose a life that would compel me to try to kill myself over and over and over and over again? knowingly or unknowingly, either through drugs and alcohol. I cannot understand. I don't understand why I did not die from alcohol poisoning or overdoses. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
Um, and then I, had those moments of planning it and thinking, if I feel this way in the morning, I'll do it. Why did I have two of those? Why did I choose a life to be bullied and messed with to the point where I hated every single person, every single thing in my entire life? Why would I have chosen a life that would put me in here? There are no pictures of me smiling as a kid
Mm.
at all. And when my mom would ask me to smile, my response would be, why? What is there to smile about? I hated taking pictures. Why would I choose that for myself?
Mm.
See, when we say we choose, we're choosing from a place of self-protection and ego. But self-protection and ego is not why you're here. You're here to grow, you're here to learn, you're here to evolve, you're here to expand. And that's the thing. When we succeed, we merely repeat.
Mm.
Right? If you made a cake and it came out slamming and every single person at your party loved that cake and told you how beautiful that cake is, when you have another party and they ask for a cake, are you going to start playing with a recipe?
Mm.
No, you're going to make the same exact
Right.
cake. So we need mistakes. We need challenges, especially stubborn people like me. We need these things because that's what pushes us to find out what we're made of. You don't know what you're really made of until you need to find out, right? There's only two reasons that people change. You either learn enough that you want to, or you hurt enough that you have to. But how do you ever get to a point where you know that you need to learn enough, right? You usually have to hurt first.
Yeah.
So of course we wouldn't choose this for ourselves, but I thank Spirit for putting me in these situations.
Mm.
Of course, I would have loved the Band-Aid to be ripped off even faster. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
But even that is part of the process, and that is part of the journey, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Mm.
Last week I had this insane experience of dealing with trauma and dealing with self-doubt with a very serious health concern that really terrified me, like actually terrified me. And I chose the harder path to go through it. And I received a gift that will propel me and is propelling me into being an even better healer for other people, an even better person for myself, and even more service on this earth. And so that's why we do these things, because there are gifts at the end of those things.
Mm. That's huge.
Right?
That's huge. And there's so many people, like it's a little bit of what we talked about in the beginning too, of it being in the midst of it, it might royally suck, and it might be the most horrible thing you've ever been through, and you're saying all of the W's, why, when, how, don't want to do this, and then upon reflection you're like, oh, I was stubborn and I needed that. And so one of the things that wanted to tie into this is that, we've had energy healers and other people on the show before who have been very clear about, because I have often felt, and this is not something anybody told me, or this was my own intuition, telling me that that I need to go through certain things, and that's just the way that it needs to happen. And there are people that have been on the show and people that have been on my life who have said, listen, no, that it doesn't need to happen. You're choosing for it to happen, period. Like if your life is hard, if any part of your life is hard, you're choosing for it to be that way. And so, I mean, how do you sort of balance that idea of, yes, I need to learn these things, but maybe it doesn't need to be as hard, or does it need to be as hard? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Why do those ideas conflict? Why can't it be both? Saying that it needs to happen or saying that you're choosing it, well, why are you choosing it? And I can go through all sorts of things. It's almost like when people say, well, there's science and then there's spirituality. And I say, no, no, these are just two different ways to look at the same thing. And people will say, no, it's not. Yes, it is. Study your ancient Egyptian spirituality, study ancient Hinduism, study Sanskrit, and you'll see that yes, it is. And the closer we get to understanding quantum physics, the more we understand spirituality. And so we find the same conundrum here. People will say that
Right.
this needs to happen. No, it doesn't need to happen. You're choosing it for it to happen. But I say, did it happen? Is it happening? Okay, we'll deal with that. Who cares? Can you learn from it? Can you understand that there might have been a series of events that led you up to a situation? Whatever. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? You're there now. And this has a very beautiful and important reason for you to be there. And if you get quagmired in blame, right, that's a blame game.
Right.
That's an egoic pursuit to take the push off of you and the responsibility of learning off of you. Because if you can say, oh, well, I chose it, whatever, then I can blame myself and then I can avoid it in the future. Why are you trying to avoid learning? Why are you trying to avoid growing? What's because it hurts? Okay, stay under a rock for the rest of your life. You're going to find your own different brand of pain there too. You know, that's why Buddhists say life is suffering.
Mm.
It's not because life is punishment. No, there is suffering everywhere, no matter what you do. People say, oh, I'll avoid suffering once I become a millionaire. Ask Kanye how his life is. Right? Like, oh, I just need more power and influence. Ask Trump if he's happy.
Mm. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. That's just not what it is. Ask the Dalai Lama if he experiences no suffering, and he will probably just laugh at you with that smile that he tends to give all of us ignorant children. Right? You know, that cute, just like, that's so cute.
I wonder if that's what he's thinking sometimes. Like, y'all are adorable.
Has to be. Has to be. He has his own struggles. He has his own pains. Come on. He was kicked out of his own country. Most of the people that he ever loved are dead. So, and murdered, not just dead. So let's be very clear. If you try to avoid suffering, what you're trying to do is build a utopian society for yourself.
Mm.
And I would like you to take a moment and list out all the other people who tried to build utopian societies and tell me how that worked out for us and the rest of the world.
Very
right?
true.
This is an egoic pursuit. Let's drop it. And
it goes along very much with you know, something that I've talked about for a long time and touched on it briefly in this conversation as well. And that's that so many people are in the spiritual quote unquote community on social media. I have to laugh when people start talking about the effort to live in the 5D, to completely live there, and I laugh at this because we have to pay rent and our mortgage and car payment, and we have to put groceries on the table, and our bodies don't run without food as a human or water. And so we have to have all of these things, and that apparently like we don't need that in the 5D. So I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, because I have always felt very, even on my own spiritual journey, have felt very much like, yes, we are spiritual beings, but we're also very much human, and we are intended to have human experiences, and we are intended to go through certain things, and we're intended to have relationships. Like all of these people that have come to me over the years and said, oh, well, you know, and they're all in their spiritualness, and they're like, well, they're not friends with me anymore, but that's okay. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't. And I'm like, why don't you want to feel? Why don't you want to feel and experience and all of those things? And so do you feel like do you see that at all in the spiritual community, this sort of spiritual bypass sort of mentality?
Oh yeah. Because what I hear there is, oh, being a human is bad, being a human is a mistake. And so I know better than the universe. I know better than spirit. This was a misstep, so I'm going to go back. And people will say, no, I don't want to. Oh, so you want to be here? Well, then be here. Make up your fucking mind.
Yeah.
Like, we're here so that we can experience, so we can love. There's a beauty in being human. And yeah, I mean, good comes with bad, light comes with dark, and yin and yang, and all these other memes that you see, but we need to accept it. There's nothing wrong with being in pain.
Mm,
There is something wrong with seeing wrong and feeling in pain. That's what
mm.
it is, because you're denying your experience. And if you're going to deny your experience, then deny all of your experience. And if you're going to do that, go be gone,
Mm.
right?
That's huge. That's a huge thing that I want to share about that particular part, about the, you know, just wanting to embrace or deny one particular part of something. And I can't tell you how many times in the last couple of years, going through the physical challenges that I've gone through, where I've gotten myself into a space where I'm like, my body just doesn't work. It doesn't like me. It doesn't work. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's pissing me off, whatever. And then I come to and I'm like, if my body wasn't working, I would not be here right now. Like, oh, Jessica, really? And so I realize how easy it is for us as human slash spiritual beings for us to do that, to be very black and white, to say, well, this isn't working or this isn't the way it's supposed to be. And we denounce or embrace the entire thing without looking at all the different dimensions of it, right?
Yeah, and it's, you know, this isn't how it's supposed to be. How do you know? We're all children in the eyes of the universe. And kids will try to make sense of everything and say that they know things, but be very careful about someone who knows everything about anything, right? Or will say these black and whites. You know, these communities are escaping. Why? Escape from what?
Yeah.
This is a beautiful thing. Escape from pain. We already talked about that. So escape from what? If you cannot have love without heartbreak, without being willing to risk it. So what are you saying? That it's not worth it? It's not worth it to feel love because you're afraid to be hurt? I don't subscribe to this at all. I think that is a huge mistake.
Mm.
And I think instead, it's like what you said, well, okay, it's not working. And I've had those moments too when I've been so upset with my body and then realizing, whoa, whoa, whoa. How about I look at the decisions that I've made that led me here? I wonder how upset my body is with me.
Nobody wants to do that though, because we don't like to be called out as humans. We don't, and this is something that I talked about recently, where it's like, we don't want to be called out because or learn something new. And the reason we don't want to learn something new is because that means that everything we knew before that was not either not correct or not helping us or not whatever. And so we look at it and then and I know for me, I go down the rabbit hole of, oh well, you should have known better. Like that's my thing that I've been working on my whole life, is like that, not beating myself up over the stuff that I didn't know before. And so it's like, why would why would we want to know anything? Because then that means that we were wrong, and we don't like to be wrong because.
No, we hate that. But look at what we say with children. A child will do something and we say, oh, he doesn't know any better. She doesn't know any better. So what? Because we have this term called adult. When did we start knowing better?
I'm trying to figure that out.
Know that, like, I look at, I'm 36 right now. I look at a 26-year-old and go, they don't know any better. And a 46-year-old is looking at me going, he doesn't know any better. Well, why don't we just say that for ourselves? If that's true throughout our entire lives, when other people say it about us or when we say it about other people, why can't we extend ourselves that grace? Why do we expect ourselves to know everything? And yet it's okay. We say, oh, I don't need to be perfect. And yet we look back and say, I should have known that. You cannot say both of these statements at the same time. I don't need to be perfect. Dan, I know I'm not a perfectionist. First of all, yes, you are. 99% of the perfectionists I've ever worked with always started with that sentence. To me, it's almost like when I was dating a girl coming up to say, Dan, just so you know, we're not having sex tonight. I go, tonight's going to be a great night, right? It's plausible deniability.
Yes.
We hate being wrong. We hate feeling wrong. It's just like I called people out and did not get positive responses when I said, hey, does anybody else notice that when someone else tells you that I'm handling it in my own way, it usually means I'm not doing anything about it at all?
Absolutely.
And people are like, I feel so triggered. I'm
Yeah,
like,
well, of course.
yeah, that's why I said it. Well, what's wrong with being triggered? The discomfort you feel is an invitation to heal.
Mm.
And I know that rhymed and I hate it because it's probably going to go up on a meme now.
I'm
But
gonna. Oh, don't think that that's not going on a graphic on the breakthrough page.
damn it.
Note it down. Go back to this. Okay, we're good now. It's now a graphic. You're welcome.
Look how red I got from that. I'm like, no.
Dr.
these, are,
Seuss.
these are beautiful moments, though. You know, as much as it's uncomfortable, the discomfort points us, right? It's like when you have a cut, right? This is how, so I have a pretty high pain tolerance. Thank you to my mom, but my mom has almost lost her life because of that high pain tolerance. Um, because she is a trooper like I've never seen. She went, what was it? She went camping and hiking in the desert for 6 days with a ruptured appendix.
And these are
And
the
when,
moments where, like, why?
because she, oh, it's a little pain. No, whatever, I'll just keep going. And when she went to the hospital, the doctors brought classes and said, look, this is the miracle woman. Learn from her. And she goes, what? So for me as well, one of the ways that I know that I'm injured or that I cut myself, other than looking at blood, which is usually the thing, it's like, I've been bleeding all over my house for a day. And then clean it, is pain. We know that something is wrong because we feel pain. But when we look at a cut, we don't say, oh, how bad I am, how wrong I am to have this cut, right? I'm a horrible person because I'm cut. What do? We heal it. We go into remedy. Why is an emotional pain any different? So when we feel emotionally triggered, when we're pushed to here, why don't we just look at it, and instead of judging ourselves and casting ourselves out, why don't we just look at it and say, wonderful, I found an injury that if I did not know about it could land me in real trouble. Right?
And
if
it
I
doesn't
ignored
mean
it.
that you can't fuss through that. It doesn't mean that you can't cry and be like, this hurts like shit.
Yeah.
And because I think sometimes people hear, again, with the all or nothing, black and white sort of mentality, that if we say, there's a reason for this, that we can't cry, we can't be angry, we can't experience all the other stuff that comes with it.
Do it. Those emotions are there too, because they show you different dimensions of what you're experiencing. And hey, now that I can finally cry, I've had a block on crying up until last month, literally my whole life. Watched my grandfather die in front of me and had no emotional response to it. I turned all my emotions off, except for like anger. But now that I can cry and I can weep, I know what kind of release it is and how to really give in to the emotion and experience the storm. Look, I love thunderstorms. Growing up in New Jersey, it's one of the things I miss living out in LA. Good, one of those thunderclaps that sends the car alarms off.
Yeah.
Like you can see the whole universe in one open up, and it's terrifying and it's sexy and it's exhilarating and it's fun. Well, when we get caught in these emotional storms, there's a lot of that there too, and it hurts, sure, just like being caught in that storm. But then when you get to a place of safety, when you release it all and you experience and let go, and instead of resisting, allow the emotion to run through you in its entirety, or even ask for more, sit with it, fully experience it. And then when it leaves, it's almost like watching that storm at a distance. When we allow these things, people are like, oh, it's wrong to feel guilt, it's wrong to feel shame, it's wrong to feel hurt, it's wrong to feel fear. No, it's not. It's unhealthy to hold on to it, but that's not even wrong. And when we can get to a safe distance, so we feel it all, we let it run through us, and then we can come to the place of safety where we can look at it from a different vantage point. Like now, me looking back at all the awfulness that I experienced, there is something beautiful to it. There is something about seeing the raw nature of humanity that I experienced and I flowed through and I survived and I came out stronger. And just like looking at a storm, there is something amazing and adventurous and sexy and compelling and beautiful about that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many people that have said to me like, well, I don't want to cry. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to, and yeah, they're not fun. They're not fun in the moment, but I can see that because for me growing up, I was told so many times, like, you're too emotional, Jessica. I kind of had the opposite as you grow. Like I cried over everything, literally cry or be upset or be really emotional about something. And I've always been a very all in kind of person like that, where my whole heart is in something. So of course I'm going to feel with my whole heart, whether I'm watching a movie
Yeah.
or I'm in a relationship or I'm taking a class or I'm doing an interview. My whole self is in it. So of course I'm going to be more emotional if it ends, if something goes a different way. All of these different things happen. And so I was told my whole life, stop crying, you're too emotional, don't you're too, why do you feel like that, like questioning all these things. And I think honestly that it took me a while as an adult to try to re-allow myself to be that again, and that it's okay and that it's needed. And I feel that with the physical issues I've had, when I allow myself to have these huge emotional releases, like, it's the best thing. I feel so much better the next day physically. And so I think we need to do more of this. And this even ties into the title thing. It ties into so much that we've talked about today, to allow ourselves to just be in the moment, whether we're crying, yelling, smiling, laughing, in business, not in business, know who we are, don't know who we are. um, do you have times now where you still have issues allowing yourself to just be?
Um, Less and less.
Mm,
I'll put it that way, because one of the things that I'm working on is experiencing more and more. I'm overcoming that challenge. And if you would imagine, I take my perspective for a second here. Imagine not feeling emotions other than anger or sadness
mm,
for your entire life, right? For 36 and a half years. And then experience a little bit of joy and see what that feels like, right? You ever seen a kid experiencing candy for the very first time?
we try not to do that a lot around here.
I remember watching my nephew have his first piece of cake
Mm,
in life, and watching his face and going, "This is what wonder looks like.
mm,
This is the fountain of youth, is our experience." And so now when I have these things, even if it's sadness, even if it's anger, even if it's whatever, instead of holding it back, I allow myself to fully experience it like a different dish.
mm,
Now, I'm a foodie. I love food. I love cooking. I love eating different things. But one of my greatest joys is tasting new things.
mm,
And a gift that my parents gave me, through helping me travel, quite a bit. Even as a child, we were traveling all over the world, and they just asked me to taste things. Even if I didn't like that, it was totally okay to not like it. But what if I love it? I don't know. What if there's something about it that opens me up to an idea? Then
mm.
isn't it worth trying something you don't like? And look, you don't need to eat the whole damn thing. If you don't like it, put it back.
Yeah.
And so now I have these experiences, and it's like me tasting a new dish. Because every time you experience an emotion, it is actually different. There is a different quality of it. Now, people don't really know that if they've been regularly experiencing emotions their whole lives. But let me tell you, from a newbie, it's very different. Every time, it's a new dish. And some of them I don't like. But you know what? I try it anyway. And I'll try it until it's done with me. That's how we try emotions,
Yeah.
right? Not when we're done with it. Because if you stop an emotion, it electrocutes you from the inside out emotionally. I can go into the science behind that, but that's what happens. Um, and So I'm trying, I'm tasting, and I'm experiencing, and it's a beautiful thing because I'm getting to know myself even more, and I'm getting to know life even more. And the more I know and the more I experience about life, look, we love to travel. We love to go other places and see other things. Why? Because it expands us. And people say, I need to go traveling to find myself. No, you don't. No, people have told you that because they don't know how to find themselves. A lot of these things that we feel that people are passing down from generation to generation, like you're too emotional.
Mm.
These are, with love, broken, never worked before
Right.
kinds of lessons that just because it was done before, it is done now. Why? Because it gives us a sense of certainty. We don't like being uncertain. That's why you see a lot of people right now saying bogus things about what's happening outside their doorstep
Mm.
that I can disprove within about 3 minutes. And they're saying it because it gives them certainty. We as human beings feel fundamentally threatened by the idea of uncertainty.
Mm.
But isn't it amazing when we go on vacations that we love those surprises? Isn't that what people can talk about? If you went on a vacation and you knew that for a whole week, you knew every single thing that was going to happen, and you know exactly when and exactly how, would you still go?
Mm.
If there was not a single thing that was a surprise, that was an adventure, that was new, would you still do it?
Mm.
I don't think many people would. I know some people would because they're escaping as well. What
Mm-hmm.
are they escaping? Uncertainty, right? So the whole thing is that there is an adventure. We crave uncertainty, but the only thing is we crave uncertainty with certainty. We
Right.
like a surprise as long as we know that it'll be okay for us. We like,
Right.
right? We like going to a new restaurant as long as we know that it's going to be good. This is why we crowdsource everything. I won't even buy soap unless I've seen that 6,000 people give it a 4 star review, because right, because of the uncertainty.
Yeah.
But it's a weird thing. So that's part of the joy of life, and we have to be willing to be wrong, and we have to be willing to have experiences we don't like, so that we can continue to grow. Because the more you grow, the more you evolve, the more you experience, the more you get to have a true say in how your life goes. People like the idea of control. And you see a lot of people saying that control is a myth. It is a myth. Absolutely, it is a myth. But if you fill your head with bogus certainties, you are out of control in a way that is dangerous to you and everyone around you, right? People will say, it's like, it's almost like saying this. It's like saying, well, I haven't done any research, but I'm going to decide that smoking cigarettes is good for me because it's comfortable and it's convenient.
Mm.
And because I want to be certain, then I need to convince everybody around me that it's true because I can't have them doubting me. So
Mm.
I'm going to peer pressure and lie and manipulate everyone around me until they agree. And this is how I can find myself in certainty.
Mm.
No,
Do
asshole.
you think
No.
that some people like do that lying and convincing and all of that to themselves too? That it's like, because we know, like we've talked about that, like this already, that we know that certain things are wrong. It doesn't matter what you know, but we've convinced ourselves that it's good for whatever reason. That's another hot button topic that I've talked about with my community before, and that's that we don't do anything that we don't want to do. It's benefiting us in some way. It may not be a way that we like,
Right.
but it's benefiting us in some way. It may not be a way that we would have consciously chosen, maybe, but
Sure.
we're still choosing it and we're still doing those things because it's benefiting us in some way. It's like, we know from the science standpoint of things that we get certain hormonal payoffs from certain things that happen. Now, you could get that one hormonal payoff from doing something good for yourself, or you can get the same hormonal payoff from doing something bad from yourself. Which one are you going to choose?
Sure.
And so I love that conversation because it makes people uncomfortable.
I kind of like making people uncomfortable.
High
You know,
five, Dan.
because like, look, I refuse to coddle people.
Yeah, yeah.
And the same way you can kind of hear the way that I talk. I can be very loving,
Mm-hmm.
but also I have my boundaries. And if you expect me, if you're gonna, you want to hire me because you want me to agree with everything you think, I will happily give your money back and ban you from any single one of my companies. So, because I will not put up with that.
Mm.
It's disgusting to me, right? That kind of sentiment is gross. It makes people sick in a very real way.
And there's other coaches and stuff like that who
Go to
don't
them.
find it
Go to
whatever.
them.
So go ahead. I mean, not everybody's for everybody, right?
Exactly. Just please be gone permanently from my world. Um, but the people who come to me do it because they know that I trigger them with love, and I do it because it's just like a little poke here. Did you see how you reacted? Did you like that? Do you want to continue doing that? Well, what are you going to do about it? And can you find the strength in that? Is that we don't want to walk around with paper cuts all over our bodies, but how do we know until those paper cuts are pushed on a little bit? I'm not talking about you need to experience an extreme amount of pain in order for you to get over anything. But when we learn that discomfort is our ally, see, this is a beautiful thing. People say they want to avoid pain. People say that they want to, they don't want to be uncomfortable, right? But how do you heal discomfort? You find out what is uncomfortable. You do the things to strengthen yourself, to heal what is uncomfortable now and prevent it proactively. And then you've won less discomfort in your life. And if you keep on repeating this process, you have less and less and less and less and less and less discomfort. So the way to be free of pain is not to avoid it, it's to lean into it. And to have a guide so that instead of taking forever, or instead of taking the opportunity to blame yourself or other people or fall into powerlessness or fall into despair, you have someone who will lovingly remind you, right, that no, you're doing the right thing. When we go to the gym, if we just lifted the weights that were comfortable for us, would we ever get stronger? Right? But isn't it fun to go with someone who's a little bit more built or skinnier? Not skinny, that's not the right word. Toned, right? A little bit more built or toned or fit, right? And when you're starting to get gassed, when you're like, I can't do that, you have your friend going, yes, you can. This is too hard. No, it's not. I believe in you, and I'm going to believe in you until you believe in yourself. And look at that mirror as you raise that weight and realize that you have just done the thing you thought 2 seconds ago was impossible. And now remember that you can do this with everything in your life.
Yes. That support and surrounding yourself with people that challenge you, I think, is so important too. And we could have a whole other conversation about that too. And it's something that it's so important. It's so important to have those people around you that aren't just going to agree with you all the time, or that are at the same exact level with you. I think it's helpful to have people that are quote unquote behind you because it gives you a glimpse of what things were like for you at one time. And I think it's good to have people that are ahead of you in whatever area of your life, or I don't like to think of behind and ahead, but in your mind of what you envision as such, because it can help you see where you're going or what you need to do in order to get there. So I love that commentary as well. There's so much more that I want to talk to you about today, and we're going to be here for 12 hours. So, but one of the things that I know that you've been getting into, as well, you've been for a long time, but I've only just now seen it because we've only just been friends for a little while. So is energy readings. And so I would love to take a break and come back, and we can do a little fun with that together. It'd be fun.
Awesome.
All right. We'll be back in just a minute for more of the Breakthrough Show. We hope you've been enjoying the Breakthrough Show. If you're someone who is an inspirational entertainer or has an incredible story of breakthrough, we want to hear from you and maybe even have you on the show. Be sure to visit the links in our show notes to send us an email or connect with us on social media. We hope to see you on a future episode of the show. And now back to the Breakthrough. Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. I'm back again with my friend Dan. This is the Dan and Jessica show today, because why not? Because why not? It's been fun. Dan, it's been so nice having you here today. And I know that one of the things that I've enjoyed seeing you do on your social media recently are energy readings. And I had my Colors of the Moon Oracle deck that I came out with last year. And I thought it would be fun to we're going to project and then we're going to look back, because we're going to recording this ahead of time. And we're going to set the intention that whatever message that we receive and share with you guys today is for you on this day that it premieres. So this is premiering on August 7th and 2020. And so we're going to set that intention that this message is for you today, and on what we need to know right now, what is most important for us to know today on how we can be more present today. So do you want to start out, and then I'll...
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Okay, so the card. Ooh, now we're gonna have a fun day. So this is the card that I drew here. Is that clear? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And so, Bridget, moving back to wholeness, finding inner strength. Oh boy. So usually when we get this card, we get a little bit more of what we've been talking about in this episode. Where it's going to be a day of recognizing our strength.
Mm.
But it doesn't come in good days, right? So that day is going to offer us opportunities to fall back into powerlessness, or to fall back into weakness, or to lose ourselves. Maybe, and that could be, coming in the form of challenges directly coming in your business or your friends or family, or that might be people trying to impress things on you, or you feeling uncomfortable because of an idea that you feel like you should accept, right? This pure pressure. Mm-hmm. None of this is comfortable. All of this is challenge. All of this may come with mistakes, and may come with opportunities to just say, F it, throw your hands up in the air and just, I give up. Mm. But the gorgeous thing is that in these times when we choose the harder path, we find our strength and we see how strong we really are. It is, if we're going to return to the last, my last analogy there, it's being in the gym and, wanting to put the weight down, or wanting to just quit running, and just squeezing out that last rep, running that last mile, just to show yourself that you can do it. And what always comes after that, right? You take a shower, you have your meal, and that's the best shower you've ever taken. That's the best meal you've ever had. And you sit there with that glow, feeling like, yes, I did it, and learned something and gained something. And that strain, that was worth it.
That's so good. It's so good. And I think it goes along with everything we've talked about today so beautifully, and also reminds us to lean into the right now, which is why I giggled when I just pulled this one for us. Which is, so this is card number 15 is build, and it says, I am building the future I desire right now, like as in this moment. So the energy of this card is really just about that reminder that everything you're doing in the moment is either helping or hurting your future. Which way do you want it to go? Because you have that power in the moment to do it. And the one thing that I love that goes along so beautifully with your card is that this particular card is focused on our solar plexus chakra, which is always, to me, is that energy center, that reminding us that we have the power within, we have the strength within. And so if you're having a rough day today, whenever you hear this message, because we've set that intention for you to benefit the most when you hear this message, if you're having that rough day, if you're having a rough time, if you're going through something and you're like, why the hell would I choose this? Now, we just talked the whole episode about choosing. Why would I have chosen this? Because you know that somewhere in you is the strength to do it and hang on and move forward and create the kind of life that you desire. I love that.
What a beautiful reading. I cannot, and here we go again. Now I have a couple of weeks where I'm like, why do I have to wait so long? I want to know. I can't wait for this to be released.
I know. I can't. So, you guys, make sure you tell us in the comments of this video, or you can send a message to Jessica at thebreakthroughshow.com and let us know how you're doing. Let us know how this resonated with you. Is this something that you wanted to hear today or needed to hear today? For sure, let us know, because we're going to be looking back a couple weeks from now at the time of this recording and going, did this come through for people? You know?
Right. And it even makes sense.
Because sometimes, listen, I have those moments where I say things and I'm like, what the hell was that?
Oh, totally. Like, yes, I'm totally down to be completely wrong. And by the way, if you had a day as well where you're like, nope, didn't resonate at all with me, I'm also down to find out about that. I don't just want people just to feed my ego. You know what I mean? And if everybody's just like, hey, you guys were way off, fine, let us know. It's fun. You know, part of this is also supposed to be a game.
Yeah,
Life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This has been awesome. I would love for you to share with everybody what you're up to now, where people can find you, any final things that you want to share with everybody. Just you've got the stage, my friend.
Beautiful. Thank you. So there are a couple of easy ways to connect with me. You can follow me on Instagram at Dan Mendilow. Super easy. Connect with me on Facebook, Dan E.C. Mendilow. And that is also where I do the daily energy readings that have, I've gotten quite a bit of positive feedback from it, saying that it's really helping people make the most out of every day, be prepared for the challenges. It's like knowing the weather, right? The more you know about what the weather is going to be, the better you can be prepared for the day. And creating later on today, as we're recording, my new community online called Inner Alignment and Activation. And this is my new main focus, is creating real, deep, resilient alignment with ourselves, alignment in our relationships, alignment in business, alignment in health. What does it mean? How do we get there? How do we shorten it? So instead of taking forever, we can just experience it now. And then last call is, I have finally gotten Spirit's approval to open up to 3 new clients. I haven't taken on many clients recently because I've been really focusing in on my own healing journey, which was wildly intense. And thank God I didn't have clients then, or that many clients. I still had like 10, but now I can take on 3 more. So I'm looking for the unicorns out there. And just so you know, working with me is rapid acceleration and expansion. And not everybody is down for that, right? It's really, are you open to truly evolving, not in years, but in weeks, and allowing yourself the space to find out what is truly next for you, really discovering your real strengths, having things come in alignment, right, in beautiful ways, because sometimes that's intense for people. It can be intensely good, but it's still intense, right? And I have quite high standards for myself, and as you'll see online, high standards for other people. And so I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. I'm going to honor you if you're not ready. If you feel called for any reason, I invite you to reach out to me and just have a conversation, a warm, open-hearted conversation. As if you heard before, I deplore, putting pressure on people. I deplore ugly sales tactics. So a warm, open, loving, honoring conversation to see whether this is something that is being called out for you, whether this is your time. So I invite you to reach out to me if you have that pull.
Absolutely. Yes. And we have all of Dan's information in the show notes. So you guys make sure you go to breakthroughshow.com. And of course, you know that in case you don't know, every single guest that ever comes on the Breakthrough has their own page on the breakthroughshow.com, where it has their picture. So in case you just remember their face, you could sort through all the pictures, has their contact information and all of that. So be sure that you check that out to connect with Dan and get plugged in if you feel called to do that. Dan, this was a blast. And I, of course, want to invite you to come back on again sometime because it just was so much fun to be with you today.
I would love to. This was such a blast. I'm so, so grateful for the opportunity to come and play with you today. I had so much fun.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, it's been an amazing episode today. I want to thank all of you for watching. It has meant so much to me, and I know so much to Dan as well, that you've been here to spend this time with us today. It's not, there's a lot of shows out there, and there's a lot of places you can be, and a lot of things you can be doing with your time. And so I just congratulate you honestly on taking this time for yourself to open your mind a little bit and listen and tune in. And it's always a fun time to be here with you. So I want to give you a little heads up really quickly for next week. We have Brian K. Wright on the show from Success Profiles magazine, and also speaker and entrepreneur Scott Mason. This is going to be a powerhouse show. Again, another one really amazing for entrepreneurs, and just the experience that these two gentlemen bring to the table. Unbelievable. You guys don't want to miss it. So please take a moment to rate, subscribe, comment, and share where available. And until next week, make today a great day for a breakthrough. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Breakthrough. Please visit our website at www.thebreakthroughshow.com. And be sure to join our After the Breakthrough community powered by Patreon. We look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place for another inspiring episode.